I, Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela, do hereby swear to be faithful to the Republic of South Africa and do solemnly and sincerely promise at all times to promote that which will advance and to oppose all that may harm the Republic, do justice to all, and to devote myself to the well-being of the Republic and all its people.
Will you please raise your right hand and say, "So help me God"?
So help me God.
So help me God. So help me God.
So help me God.
Here's the thing, the ANC has been governing South Africa for almost 30 years. When you want to judge the performance of a party that has been in power for almost 30 years, of what they did over that period, and I can assure you, the record is terrible. They have collapsed public education, they have collapsed health, they have collapsed security, they have collapsed the economy.
We used to boast that we have delivered water, but the taps have run dry. You can't boast about supply of electricity anymore. Why? Because there's load shedding.
Yeah.
So basically the ANC has undone some of its key successes over time. And that's mainly due to corruption.
That while we have been doing it for 28 years, it is not the same people that were doing it for 28 years.
It's the same party?
It is the same party, but the party deploys different cadres from time to time.
We often see this as a victimless crime, but we are sorely mistaken. That happened with our money that could have improved the lives of South Africans, which goes back to the promises and the hopes and the dreams in '94.
But let's ask a question. When did you start seeing graduates standing on street corners in their academic gear? It was during the Zuma years. That is the depth of despair and a moment of reflection where we all need to say this far and no further.
But the state capture was one of the biggest corruption scandals in South Africa's democracy because of the nature of what it was. And it's estimated that basically at least $6 billion or so. So imagine that money that could have been used to improve people's lives.
They want to live like millionaires in the suburbs and enjoy all the benefits. They forget about the life, the grinding poverty in informal settlement in shacks, because the leaders don't actually experience that on a daily basis.
Young people like Nkele Padi, desperately trying to eke out a living and a future from Video Informal Settlement northwest of Johannesburg.
And nothing has gotten better. Everything has gone worse. So it's more tougher now to get jobs, to travel around, to get information.
Many of the residents rely on communal taps and there's no proper sanitation. They live surrounded by filth.
We don't get water regularly. We don't get people to come fetch the dustbins. And this truck driver comes in. I'm like, why didn't you come in last week? And they're like, because they don't pay us.
People here are disillusioned.
We need clinic, we need school, we need jobs, we need proper roads. Because even if you get sick at night, the ambulance don't come inside of these shacks.
I-career yabantwana bethu, future ye-youth yethu manje ayisahambi kahle, ayisafani na before. Abantwana bahlala etratini, abantwana babhema amanyawupe, abantwana babhizi ngama-hapless.
Councillors are coming, leave the term, go, leaving this place like this.
The story is the same across the country.
Children are dying of malnutrition in the Eastern Cape in numbers. Why are they dying? Because the parents are so used to being hungry, they don't understand what malnutrition is in a child. So the children stay at home, and by the time they go to the clinic and get referred to the hospital, it's too late, they die. Because the parents think it's quite normal to starve, to be emaciated, to lose weight. Now how do you deal with a crisis like that?
So if we're going to look at a scorecard now, do you believe that the ANC has fulfilled promises that were made in 1994?
We have created policies that provide for social housing. That ensures that when you are unemployed, qualifies for a house and are on the list and had followed all processes of the government and have met the necessary means test, you are then given the RDP houses.
In July this year, the president acknowledged that the situation is dire at the ANC policy conference.
That we need to undertake extraordinary and urgent measures to accelerate inclusive growth, create employment, and alleviate poverty.
The leaders of the ANC who claim to lead the people no longer live with the people. There has been a political airlifting of the leadership from communities into suburbs. So you are an activist, very vocal, you live among black people. You get a position in the provincial government. The next day you leave Soweto. You go and live in Sandton. So they have completely lost touch.
When you come to government, you come for one purpose, to serve the country. Unfortunately, in the present time, people are coming to serve themselves.
This in a country with rampant unemployment.
This economy has to grow sustainably for the next 20, 30 years at an average of more than 3.5% to 4% for us to have a fighting chance of breaking the back of this quagmire that we are in. By that I mean poverty, unemployment and inequality.
We have a debt burden spiraling out of control.
That money will have to be repaid. And when it has to be repaid, that's where you are going to face some very tough decisions to make, including some of them having to cut back on things like social welfare.
But the ANC finds comfort in the fact that as a country, we are not alone.
What is being experienced by South Africa today is being experienced by all other countries. All countries in all other third world countries are experiencing the problems that South Africa is experiencing.
But they're not the most unequal country in the world, we are.
Well, there's quite a number of things that we have done. We have introduced affirmative action policies, BEE.
It's time to dump race-based affirmative action in South Africa, given the damage the policy is causing to poor.
BEE is broken. I'm not against any kind of people being assisted in various ways, but people should be assisted because they need help, not because of the color of their skin, because then we are going to help a person who comes from Sandton, but just because of the color of their skin you are helping them, but you are really not making any change.
All of these policies and many others were attempted at making sure that we could create an equal society. It is going to take time before we get to a point where
you see the frustration, right?
Well, we understand that, and
when there's no food to eat.
That's why in meeting the populace halfway, we make sure the things I've outlined earlier on, that at school, these young ones who come from indigent families could be able to be given food.
But this while our tax base is dwindling and unsustainable.
7 million people's taxes can't fix up 65 million people. To expand the tax base, you need to create jobs. You need to create opportunities. And when that happens, of course, the tax base should get bigger.
Our state-owned entities, which for years have been black holes for taxpayer money and teetering on collapse.
There is a very real risk of having to implement stage 6 load shedding.
Amjad Trader has been given a poison chalice to fix what was left for 14 years or 13 years of layers of mistakes. Eskom didn't have a problem. Eskom was stolen in the daylight. Eskom was politically destroyed.
The end result is that South Africans have been left in the dark. The fact is that you've had a lot of SOEs that have been virtually cleaned out. ANC members were around. I'm just asking a question that when ANC members see other ANC members behaving badly, what happens?
Well, the answer I will give will sound like a tired answer because I've said it before. The refinement of our own policies, the lessons that we'll have learned. Because if you draw on lessons coming out of what will have happened in a particular administration and you identify weaknesses, you are duty bound to make sure that the way forward does not rehash or repeat that which undermined public confidence. Of course, the population has grown. The economy has not performed as well as we would have loved to. We have not taken full advantage of our mineral endowment.
Whose fault
fault is that? Whose problem is that? The fact that unemployment is at its highest level right now? Whose fault is it that we are one of the most unequal countries in the world? Our economy is in trouble. We have a power crisis. We have a water crisis. There's still many people who live in shacks. Are you proud as the ANC? Have we done right by our people?
The ANC has got noble and best policies. And what policies of the ANC require is nothing but leadership.
The dominance of the ANC over the years has turned out to be what poisons the democracy, firstly, and secondly, what poisons the ANC itself.
So my answer is straightforward. The ANC cannot govern. All the ANC knows is to break things up.
Despite the swirling controversy and corruption allegations, Jacob Zuma was elected president of the ANC in December 2007.
I'm called upon to lead this multi-class organization and ruling party.
They saw Jacob Zuma as their leader of the criminal gang, and they were proud to install him because they knew that once they have him at the helm, they would have the license to loot at the lower structures with impunity.
That's when we should have started seeing that, there is some serious problems heading our way. First of all, you have a man that has a very big cloud hanging over his head, who's been chosen to lead an organization.
The cloud was there first.
Yes.
2007 told us that the crass criminal element in the ANC had taken over the entire organization.
And then in 2009, he was elected president.
I will be faithful to the Republic of South Africa.
So what did he do? He then said, I'm going to feed them the soft porridge they want. Each time I stand up, I'm going to promise them that we are very serious about fighting corruption. And that's exactly what he did. So if you look at all the leaders of the ANC from 1994 up to him, he is the leader who spoke against corruption the most, but he was the most corrupt of them all.
To eradicate corruption, decisively defeat corruption.
So it was a way of pacifying society. In other words, talking left, walking right.
Well, because he knew the NPA was already investigating him as part of the investigation into Shabir Sheikh, and it was in his interest to disable the NPA, to make the NPA inefficient, to deny it of stability, of leadership, and he did that successfully for a while. In fact, at some point the NPA was acting as if there is Defense Council, refusing to, under Nomgcobo Jiva, refusing to release certain information on time to court when the DA wanted to review and set aside the decision not to prosecute him.
The first day in office, he began to make moves to remove good prosecutors, to remove good police officers at the top, and replace them with mediocre prosecutors, mediocre leadership in the police, mediocre leadership in the intelligence, in order for him and his gang to steal without being punished.
But if you go back to 2007 and the ANC's National Elective Conference at Polokwane, where the decision was taken to disband the Scorpions, the Directorate of Special Operations, that was the most public display of the fact that they did not want to fight corruption.
The Scorpions, in the circumstances, will be dissolved, and the organized crime unit of the police will be phased out, and a new amalgamated unit will be created.
Every single initiative, every single program became a tool to repurpose for the benefit of an elite few. And so what that came with was the dismantling of state institutions. That state capture came with a flip side, and that was having to dismantle state institutions to get easier access on state resources.
It set the scene for Nkandla Gate and opened the door to state capture.
The fire pool and swimming pool is a strategic asset useful for fire fighting.
We're going to draft water from the pool and we're going to relay it into the fire engine.
It was a case of direct theft. You can't even say it's corruption complicated. Public money gets deployed in Kandla.
What was it like, watching Kandla, that scandal break in Parliament, and watching this kind of narrative around state capture?
The first article I ever read about Nkandla was in the Mail and Guardian. 250 million for security upgrades. We fired the parliamentary questions in and started tackling this issue.
The fact that the government is spending 250 million rand to upgrade not a presidential house, but the president's own house.
Then the Guptas showed up on our radar when their wedding party landed irregularly at Waterkloof Air Force Base.
A lot of that time was like, what? Like, what is happening? So the Guptas were a particular phenomenon, and everything from their interference in the SOEs, they're trying to get the Johannesburg-Mumbai route cancelled by SAA so they could take it over. They're using public institutions like their own stomping ground. They're summoning cabinet ministers to Saxonwald.
There is a temptation to call it the 9 wasted years. But what that does then, it plays into a narrative of it was all bad or it was all good. The reality of it, the Zuma years was the kleptocracy.
But in Zulu you say, "Awuna mahloni," like you have no shame about your extravagances with public money and your abuse of the system.
My analysis is that the Guptas did not invent state capture. It would have been impossible for the Guptas as foreigners to come to South Africa and crack through the system. If you look at our architect, the constitution, the way it's drafted. So they didn't have to crack through it. They have to find existing methods that people were already using to eat public money.
We were able to lodge complaints with the public protector. We were able to take up these issues in Parliament. We were able to impeach, try again to impeach, go to the Constitutional Court to win the right to impeach, all of these things.
But it was madness, right? You were sitting there in Parliament when you had Zuma making jokes.
Giggling,
Kandla, all of that.
Everyone laughs. He's charismatic. Charisma isn't a qualification for governance.
We will never feel proud about instances of state capture as they played themselves out at the Zondo Commission. Recommendations have been made and the relevant authorities are looking into that.
I am attending to the Commission's recommendations and observations on members of the executive against whom adverse findings were made.
Despite overwhelming evidence and countless scandals, the ANC stands by Zuma.
President Zuma has never been convicted of any act of corruption.
So what are you saying? You're saying, despite everything around former President Jacob Zuma, until he's found guilty in a court, the ANC is going to wait and then make a pronouncement. Is that what we're saying?
Well, the ANC is an organization of process. Even if it was not President Zuma, even if it was just one Refugee Moratlegi who's a branch member of the ANC out in Krugersdorp, the ANC will still have pronounced itself in the very same way. Even our own National Executive Committee of the ANC.
But you see the problem.
No, let me speak. Because I don't know how a process becomes a problem.
The Commission wants the former president to be declared in contempt of court and sent to jail.
Straight after Ramaphosa was elected ANC president, there was talks about the removal of Jacob Zuma. Obviously, he did not want to leave office before his term ended in 2019, but it was very clear that it would be an untenable situation and that Ramaphosa had to take over the governing of the country. And so there was these back and forth negotiations that were going on to install Ramaphosa as president, but before that, obviously, to get Jacob Zuma to step aside.
I have therefore come to the decision to resign.
Jacob Zuma long maintained that the ANC had told him that he had done nothing wrong. And the way they cushioned him, even in his removal, was that they did not point any fingers to him. It was a politically managed situation. You'd never find a scenario where Cyril Ramaphosa ever called out his predecessor Jacob Zuma or put the blame on him.
But you have to backtrack to how Cyril Ramaphosa was brought in as deputy president way back in 2012 to understand the dynamics within the party and why the president has been quiet on key ANC leaders accused of corruption.
At the ANC's Mangaung conference, Kgalema Motlanthe decided to contest Jacob Zuma. And so there was an effort then to say, who can we bring in to be Zuma's deputy? And there was an effort then to bring Cyril Ramaphosa, who at the time was in business, he was a billionaire. And so there was an effort to say, let's bring him back into politics and make him the deputy president. So there was a discussion between Ace Magashule, Zweli Mkhize. These were Zuma lieutenants at the time. He will appease business, but at the same time, he'll never really be a challenger to Zuma because he does not have this political muscle, as it were.
That's what happened to Cyril Ramaphosa. Cyril Ramaphosa knew that there are certain characters you can't touch in the party because if you touch them, you are going to bring about your own downfall. Ace Magashule and people like that. It took time, by the way, for Ace Magashule to be dealt with. But if you look at the whole party, there are many elements, many Ace Magashules who are still in the system, and they cannot be touched because those people are the ones who run the party.
The president has reaffirmed the step-aside rule.
Ramaphosa was recently lauded for his step-aside policy in an effort to root out corrupt officials.
Those of our cadres who are indicted to appear in a court of law would then be asked to step aside. If they don't step aside, they will be temporarily suspended in terms of the relevant prescripts of the ANC constitution.
So it becomes a policy of the ANC that if you have stolen public money, you get expelled. And there's no way you are allowed to contest leadership, not even leadership. You are not allowed membership.
But the step-aside rule is basically, we don't want you, you must go rule. That's what it means. But they're calling it step-aside rule because it sounds better.
Yes, it sounds better. But the question is, does the ANC have the guts to implement it? Who will be left in the leadership?
But in the midst of the Phala Phala scandal, questions are being asked about whether Ramaphosa will fall on his sword.
We want an explanation of the money in the mattress and pillows of Cyril Ramaphosa today.
Phala Phala scandal hangs over the president's head simply because it strips him from that persona that he tried to maintain of this clean president. It now levels the playing fields in some way.
He knows that as South Africans we don't matter. What matters is managing dynamics internally within the ANC. So they worry about themselves and the positions they hold. They don't worry about society. And what happens to society? Society falls apart.
Our people are ready to vote for the ANC.
Election, though, as you've heard, has been marred by lower voter turnout.
People aren't voting because your options are like dog poo or like horse vomit or like, do you know what I mean? Like which flavor of like poison do I want?
They knew they could have gone to vote. They just chose to sit at home and watch TV. They're disgruntled. That's dangerous.
So I always say to people, find the political party that is least bad. Find the one that you most identify with and vote for them. But vote for someone and for something. Because if you choose to just not vote, that doesn't hold anybody to account.
Wherever the turnout is low, the ANC does really well. Where the turnout is really good, the ANC does badly. So our problem is turnout. People don't have anyone they can trust to vote for.
The conduct of our individual leaders, public perception that we are harboring corrupt cadres within the ranks of the movement have undermined public confidence out there.
What would you say to South Africans then? Because there is this growing disillusionment. Why should they vote for the ANC and still support the ANC, bearing in mind what has happened in the last few years?
Well, because of its ability to self-reflect, self-correct, and humble itself before the people, there is no other party in this country, including those that would have won power through coalitions, that have had the courage to stand before the people of this country, humble themselves where they've done wrong.
The election results must have hit home because for the first time, we've seen a shift ahead of the ANC conference in December.
Godfatherism in the ANC is dead. That's what I've argued. In the Zuma years, you would have a situation where Zuma lieutenants, in the form of an Ace Makashulu in the Free State, or Supra Mahumapelo in the Northwest, or David Mabuza in Mpumalanga, would dictate how things would go from the branch level to region to provinces. I make the case that in 2022, you're not seeing that happen in the ANC.
We are in for a wild ride. The ANC elective conference always brings out the worst in the country. We are seeing jockeying for positions, we are seeing dirt being thrown, and I think that everyone needs to just buckle up and hold on tight.
What you see in 2022 is that nobody can dictate what should happen. There's a numbers game now. And so obviously the primaries, which is the ANC provincial conferences, have all taken place. And now there's an effort to say, okay, how much of numbers do you have? How much numbers do you have? And so it's going to be a game of political horse trading in relation to the numbers, the strength of numbers.
Currently incumbent President Ramaphosa seems to be heading the fray.
Even the faction that is against them, they cannot offer someone who really can win the election for them ahead of 2024.
Nkosazana Zuma is not going to be able to deliver the victory for the ANC.
So do you think she's standing up because you need someone to stand up?
I think it's still the Jacob Zuma versus the Cyril Ramaphosa faction that are playing themselves out.
It will be important to see who else is nominated. We know that the presidential hopeful in the form of Zweli Mkhize to be on the ballot paper in December.
Could someone emerge from within the ANC that's going to just reshape this entire future?
No, it's not possible. Because of the nature and what the DNA of the ANC now is. These guys have to voluntarily agree that many of them must be arrested and locked up. Who would agree to that? I wouldn't if I was in that position. So, in fairness, we must not burden the ANC with unreasonable expectations.
Whatever happens in the ANC conference will set the stage for the 2024 elections. And given the economic crisis we find ourselves in, that doesn't augur well.
The ANC is in trouble, so expect to see another further decline.
Voters here in the video informal settlement share this disillusionment.
But when you go to vote, they come and promises. After vote, they'll sit in the office for another 5 years with that empty promises.
They want change.
I plan to vote, but for another government.
So if we don't have the right councillor from the ground, even if I can say what I want to see for this community, then that will never happen. If we still have those councillors who don't care about people.
This previous government is not doing nothing for us. What we are achieving from this government and what we experience is only corruption.
And I would also vote for the different governments that I'm in right now, because I'm not benefiting from it, and I believe no one in my community or any other community is benefiting, because what they do is just benefiting themselves.
If you are a voter and you vote the ANC over and over again into power, you are eventually going to go without electricity. In other words, the ANC is going to kill your state.
The ANC, however, claims it's been proactive about change.
We have introduced programs or policy undertakings that are responsive to the plight of our people on the ground. So our overall call to action is that making South Africa a better place for all.
And why should we believe you? Because we've got no time to play now. It's serious.
Well, because action speaks louder than words.
No, don't say that, because if we're going to say that, then we're going to go back and look at the past actions, and then we're going to say,
we don't have to go back. We've got to be forward-looking.
But there is no Messiah, no single leader who has the power to solve the complexity of the problems we face.
There is a brokenness of South African politics. South African politics on a municipal level, on a provincial government level, on a national level is broken. And we need to fix politics from the ground up. And so If we are to fall into this temptation to say, this man, whether it's an ANC president or a Democratic Alliance president or an EFF president, whoever the president will be, but if we think one man can fix all of the problems in South Africa, we're going to find ourselves in the same quagmire, trying in earnest to get ourselves out of this dark hole, but going nowhere.
But as things stand, there isn't an opposition party that looks to topple the ruling party.
So it's much harder for the opposition parties who have not been in government, because they don't have a record to demonstrate. You have to take their word when they say, this is what we're going to do. So how to demonstrate that they can do what they promise is that they must show who's their leadership. You can see these are people credible.
A coalition government looks inevitable.
The first scenario is the ANC and the EFF forming a coalition government. That is highly likely because the two parties are the same. The EFF comes from the ANC, and in fact the EFF are the worst part of the ANC. They are actually kids who have mastered corruption in the University of Corruption, which is the ANC.
It needs to be completely different, or else South Africa cannot afford another 10 years of policy uncertainty, another 5 or 10 years of economic downturn.
The second possibility, it's a coalition of, in the main, 4 parties: the DA, the IFP, the EFF, and the Action SA. These possibly can form a coalition in 2024. They will have to sort out their differences, especially the DA and the EFF.
There's also the Electoral Amendment Act that's taking place that will allow independent candidates to contest. That's going to be something that one has to watch for the 2024 elections, because an independent candidate can then be a deal maker.
Coalition politics. People say that's the future and that we must get used to it and we need to learn to work with each other.
Are you going to learn to live with a government that only leads for 6 months, and then just before they finish a year, the speaker is removed because they cannot consolidate their own unity?
But that's a rhetoric the ANC is using, right?
No, it's not us. Must be careful. One day people are just going to go to the streets and say we don't have rain. It's because the ANC stole money for the rain.
And my answer to that is, how many ANC municipalities are under administration? They're not in coalition governments. They are unable to do their work. They are completely dysfunctional. It's not about the structure of the government, it's about the people who are governing. My absolute conviction is that South Africans don't trust individual parties as much as they used to. And you see it with people splitting their vote in the ballot. And they're now in a space where they want political parties to hold each other accountable.
I think that there needs to be broader conversations around what comes next for our democracy, beyond the scenario where you had this massive political party called the ANC, and you had its opponent, the Democratic Alliance, and then smaller political parties. I think now we are entering a new phase of our democracy.
We need a strong justice system, a great police system. We need effective accountability, and we need people who can actually say, okay, we caught you, you're responsible, we are touching your assets, and we're locking you up. We need to show that kind of stuff. We need more people in orange overalls. When that happens, people will take the country seriously.
What's the 3 things that a party should have on their manifesto that would convince anybody to vote for them?
Corruption is number 1, because I call corruption traitors and anti-patriots, and it destroys the soul of the nation. Number 2, security. Once you have security, people will be more stable and number 3, job creation.
And if we want to save our country, bring it back from the brink, the onus is on us.
South Africans need a mindset change. You see, all these years we left it, government will do this, government will do that, government will do that. The country does not belong to the government. It's not their country. It belongs to me, to you, and 65 million South Africans. When something belongs to us, we take ownership, we look after it, we fix it. The concept of active citizenry is critical.
Our attitude needs to be, we are taking our country back. We're taking our democracy back from the political parties and the politicians. And
Indeed, it was very important, guys, for you to watch this video in full of it, because this is a documentary which was assigned for the ANC political parties from its beginning and its leadership up to our days. So it was very important that we get to play you the whole full video without interrupting you watching it, so that we can come back and try to do some analysis about what we have watched together in this video. So therefore, I would like us to go through this video point by point and try to understand exactly what is all this have to do with our current situation that we are facing in the country. As you all know that the ANC is not united at the moment, because there are those who are fighting all because of the high position that they want to have. So this video, we had to play it for you so that we can all be in the same page to get to understand where we're coming from, where are we, and where we going with this leadership of the ANC, and what should we have to expect from the ANC, especially in this new upcoming new leadership. Because when you get to see, guys, you'll tell for yourself that so far all the ANC candidates to the presidency, or all the ANC president that all the South African president that the ANC had provided, it is all about drama after drama, as they are on queue lining up. Each of them comes and had to show the drama up and get to disappoint the population, people of South Africa, and then the next day they will be complaining, saying that we should have done much better than what we did yesterday. So guys, you saw for yourself with your own two eyes on how this documentary reveals of things that the ANC leadership is supposed to be doing long time ago, but they failed. And you guys get to see the interview which they had to welcome Mr. Mbeki to come and explain also their side from as an ANC spokesperson, what they have to say to all these allegations and all this disappointment that the ANC had given to the people of South Africa. You saw for yourself on how he gets to give different excuses and explanation at the same time. Then on our side we ask ourselves the same question to know if this is the case, if this is the problem, if this is the only answer we can get from the politicians, what else that we should expect from politicians? Because we get to see how each and every politicians, when they're being accused of something, or when they're being accused of not doing enough as people they were expecting from them, you get to see them sending people on the media to come and defend them, people in the media, even inside the parliament, to come and take their side without looking at the real problem and figure out, try to understand what could be the real problem. So obviously on our side, I am not either surprised, as I always tell all the cool-based TV fans or audience, that there's no way that you should count on the politicians, because politicians, they will always do what is best for them and for their own interest. So therefore, all the interview, all the questions that they had put it to the ANC spokesperson, you could see that the answer was aligned out of the box as expected by the journalist. But the fact or the signs that we get to see from the other people, which are like the population, who get to give their point of view, it is totally different to the one that they are providing. So you can tell that this is politicians for you. They're never gonna do what is good for you. Now guys, of course, if you look well in the documentary, it started first with Thabo Mbeki, former President Thabo Mbeki, on how he entered the ANC leadership and become the President of the Republic of South Africa, and what he had done during his mandate. You guys will get to see everything because I can't go through everything, but I'm just picking up some basic points which I would like also to give my analytics about. So you get to see this man on how he gets to work during his mandate, and how he had to let people who were more dear to him, people who were very close to him, to be arrested and be sent to jail, all because of the corruption. And he tried during his mandate at least to try to fight corruption, and he suspended whoever he had to suspected of doing corruption. He had to suspend them because he had to do what he had to do. But at the end of the day, we all saw how former President Thabo Mbeki left the office without finishing his mandate as well. After that, we saw former President Jacob Zuma coming in, since he used to be one of the people who were in the high rank of high position of the ANC member. So he had all the opportunity for him to come through and take over the leadership of the ANC, and he did so. Later on, he became the president of Republic of South Africa, all thanks to his political party, which is the ANC. But when he came in, again through this commentary, you get to see on how he had to make some decisions which were not benefitable to the people of South Africa. Instead, what he did, he made things worse compared to the time of Thabo Mbeki. Yes, he had to make some changes according to the journalists and some analysis, as we all just watching the video. He had to make those change, whether it is in the police, whether it is in the justice system, whether it is, he had to open a door for corruption to come sit in and relax. At the same time, that is how the Gupta's brothers managed to have that access into South Africa politics and corruption system, and then they start reigning in and living their life in the way that they wanted. All that you guys witness it. And I remember back in those days when Jacob Zuma came in power, some of people who are watching this video right now, perhaps they used to be very young, they could not understand what was going on, and that is the reason why we usually prefer to play this kind of videos for you, so that we can refresh your memories and try to help you to recap whatsoever you had missed. Maybe you were not into politics during that time, or maybe you were still very young without having an idea of what was going on. But beside that, now that it happened, that things have reached to that point, we also saw how the EFF of Julius Malema, they came in politics as a political party, and their first target was Jacob Zuma. They had to come and start being very radical, attacking Jacob Zuma and revealing all the corruption that was ongoing with the former president Jacob Zuma. With all the pressure that Jacob Zuma received from the opposition political parties, he was forced to leave the office, though he did not want to leave because he did not believe that he had done something wrong. So it was up to the ANC as his political party to tell him the truth, to tell him what is being said about him, to make him understand where he had messed up and what could be the allegation against him. Instead, as it is busy happening again right now in our days, it did happen before, as I said, Julius Malema, that we are experiencing the same history that had happened before. The same people who are busy defending President Cyril Ramaphosa in the parliament today, they were also there in the time of Thabo Mbeki, and most of them, they were also there in the time of former President Jacob Zuma. So these people, instead of helping Jacob Zuma back then, they did not do so. Instead, they only kept quiet and pretend like everything is fine, and keep on encouraging Jacob Zuma, telling him that no, don't worry, everything will be okay. And Jacob Zuma feel like he was more safe, and he trusted these people. Remember back then, in those days, we were having the current president of Republic of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, has his deputy president to Jacob Zuma. So Jacob Zuma was more relaxed, knowing that he have some people he trusted. The current Chief Justice Zondo, you guys saw how Jacob Zuma came on media, revealing the secret on how they used to meet and how Chief Justice Zondo used to obey to his commands. Unfortunately, today is not the case. And I had made a video before telling you that that is how it works everywhere. The moment you become a president of Republic, especially in Africa, they don't look how many degrees you have. They don't look on where you're coming from, what kind of family you have, or what kind of car are you driving. Instead, all they will do is to make sure that they trust, they give the position to the person that they trust the most. And that's what former President Jacob Zuma did back then, to make things more easy for President Ramaphosa and Chief Justice Zondo and other ANC members to have good position, so that whenever he had to find himself in trouble, whenever he had to find himself in serious problem, then these people, they should be there to cover him. These people, they should be there to help him do better. Unfortunately, in the last minute, he was told to leave the office because they were busy preparing a motion of no confidence in him in the parliament by the opposition parties. So they had to go and convince him and lie to him, say that no, don't you worry, just step aside, we're gonna solve your problem very soon. Him also, as much he trusted these people, knowing that okay, I have someone who's gonna replace me, I have other person who's in justice system, I have this one, I have Guptas, I have everyone over there, they'll be able to look after my case and make sure that I'm not being followed by the justice. He accepted the poor old man. He stepped aside. The next things, all we get to see was drama. All we get to see was problem after problem now. Until today, Jacob Zuma is still having problem. They had to go and dig even things that happened more than 25 years ago. Today, they are busy bringing everything out so that they can just finish him off without even having that pity or feeling that pity of saying that this man is an old man. Instead of us treating him in this way, we should let him live and enjoy his rest of his life on earth. Now that Jacob Zuma have left the office, it was the turn of the current president Cyril Ramaphosa, because he came in first as a temporal president, because remember, Jacob Zuma did not finish his mandate in 2018. So President Ramaphosa, he had to come and cover according to the rule or law of the country, as he was the deputy president to Jacob Zuma. So he's the one who have to come automatically and take over. Now that the election happened, we all saw that President Ramaphosa was one of the ANC members that people trusted the most because of his history, the way they bring him. Remember, President Ramaphosa is a businessman. So he will have been busy somewhere focusing on his business, his Ankolos. But unfortunately, they had to go and cut him off and bring him to come and lead the country. And when you arrive in, myself, I remember seeing some of the opposition parties in the parliament congratulating him and telling him that we are expecting to work good with you. We hope that through your history in this country, we hope that you'll do what is better. And everything seemed to be very well, because I remember when Ramaphosa came in, he came with a mission to come and correct what former President Jacob Zuma could not do. He had to come and have that tendency of saying that I will do much better than my predecessor. And he was given in that chance. In one of his sonnets, I remember him saying that he's supposed to even to be building a new town somewhere in Gauteng, a new town which will be having about more than 500 to 600 buildings, and everyone were very excited. I remember even some of the opposition parties, they had to ask him question, where will this money coming from? Apparently there was money, and this money was sitting somewhere. This money, we get to see it in the time of COVID-19 lockdown. We get to see trillions and trillions of rents coming out to provide a fund for all the South African people. So this money, I believe it is the money which the ANC government or ANC leadership through the President Cyril Ramaphosa, they were planning already to have, so that they will have to build this new town, and which was something very beautiful, because remember, since the time of apartheid up to now, South Africa have not built any new town. All we have, it is an old town which has have the old building, nothing new, except maybe some private building where they try to renovate a little bit nyana here and then, but the rest of building, it is either it get too old and they have to come and demolish it, or it is either it is something which has like, it is not that in that good condition and they have to come and renovate it. So that idea that the President Ramaphosa came with in 2019, telling people that we're going to build a new town, it was a beautiful idea, which I salute on my side. But unfortunately, as we all know, politicians, they'll tell you something like this today and tomorrow they'll do something else. So that was the serious challenge that President had to face. At the same time, I also do understand, because these things of COVID-19, when it came as a pandemic in the world, it did not left anyone behind. Yes, it really destroyed all the project, the plans, the budget of countries. It really hold a lot of countries, especially those countries who are very poor in economy. It really killed a lot of countries out there. So we can't really blame President Ramaphosa for that, because perhaps if it wasn't for COVID-19, this project was gonna go ahead, be accomplished, I mean to say, guys. So, but after all this time, there was something that happened in 2020, and of course this time I'm talking about Palapala Mani saga, something that the president is supposed to provide an explanation to people, but unfortunately he preferred to keep quiet, thinking that one day these things are not gonna come out. But now that this problem is out, it has raised even more questions that the president is supposed to answer. But unfortunately, the president had to listen to his counselors, to his people who are surrounding him, who had forbid him from not talking to the media or responding to any of these questions. And that put the integrity of President Cyril Ramaphosa on the balance. It even raised a lot of doubt on people who used to trust him the most, people who used to see him in a very different way, people who used to think that is different from other people. The fact that he kept quiet, I spoke to you in a couple of our videos telling you that it was not a good idea. And I believe today you will totally agree with me when I told you that since he did not want to answer to any of these questions, it will make people to ask even more questions. It will destroy his personality, because all these problems of Palapala, they are taking, or they are happening right at the time when we are having a serious crisis in the country, whereby food price is getting increasing each and every day. Petrol price, we can't even talk. Tomorrow they will tell you that no, it's going to be decreasing for 1 rand, but the next day they will tell you that no, it has increased for by 3 rand. At the same time, the country is going through the problem of load shedding that started 15 years ago, since the time of Mbeki. And here we're talking again about the leadership of the ANC, who keep on promising, saying that they will deliver, saying that they will fix this problem of ESCOM. Instead, as we get now to see in the time of President Cyril Ramaphosa, things have get even more worse now, compared to the time of Mbeki, compared to the time of Jacob Zuma, the men who came and find load shedding existing, but he managed at least. The time of Jacob Zuma, you'll go days, weeks, months without even knowing that load shedding exists in this country, because he had his tips or system that he was applying in order for him to keep the lights on in the house of South Africans. But unfortunately, changing of the new leadership, it is now today costing people of South Africa, whereby at first you will go maybe after days for you to have a load shedding, which they will announce you before it even take place. But in our days, the load shedding is now like you have to go and even have your own app in your phone in order for you to know what is happening, because the electricity can go at any time and they don't owe anyone explanation. So I'm telling you all this so that you guys will get to understand that there is a serious problem somewhere, and if you don't open your eyes, if you don't understand where you're coming from, where are you and where you're going, trust me, the future of your grandchildren, it won't have place in this country, all because of the politicians. And now that all these things is happening, he had put things in a very high position, at high risk at the same time, because people are not getting the delivery of the service which they're supposed to be getting. And all we get to see is all about explanation after another explanation. Even if you complain, there's nothing good is happening. But what surprised the most in all this is for the fact that you get to see people doing all this. You get to see people complaining about all these bad things, and someone can hear them. Yes, people complaining about the service, the delivery service is not being there, they whatsoever, nothing good is happening. Yet there are people who get to listen, but they prefer to keep quiet about it. And still we get to see again these political parties going to meet at different parts, places, to discuss the problems that they are facing as a nation. But when the moment they come out from there, we don't see the result in action. Instead, all we get to see, it is corruption after corruption. And that is the reason why I was telling you again in one of our videos recently, when I was giving the reasons why President Cyril Ramaphosa have to change his mind of resigning from the office, because whether we like it or not, the man had that willingness. He had really understand that something is not sitting well. I don't want to have that embarrassment. I rather just go in peace, because whether we like it or not, again, President Ramaphosa, he have it all, guys. This man is multi-billionaire. Yes, that is in rand, but if you go in US dollar, the person had the net worth of about 600,000 million US dollar. Take that money, put it in rand, you'll see for yourself that he have billions and billions of rands. And this kind of a person, even if he retire today, even if the state, they don't want to take care of him or pay anything for him, President Ramaphosa will live very rich until he die. His children, up to the third generation, they can still survive with the money that he have. So you understand that the man was willing to leave the office, but just because he was dealing with some people who had to protect their own interest. I'm talking about people in the ANC. I am talking about public companies. I am talking about the open eye masters who are sitting somewhere, since they all know that they have something to benefit through President Ramaphosa. They had to put pressure on him so that he must not resign and remain, because they know changing of a leadership, it also does change everything around. If you used to get tenders very easy because you are having someone who's informing you what is happening, how far is your supplications, your documents and everything. The moment they change the new leadership, you're not going to be able to be having the same access to those inside information again. So for that reason, such people, they'll do anything by all means to not let you fall down, because they know very well if you fall down, they are also down. And that is what you guys get to experience in the parliament recently. What happened in the parliament, it was not just embarrassment. Instead, I qualify it as something that has to do with people who are trying to protect their own interest, because they know the outcome of if they had to if they had to vote against President Ramaphosa. So all this, you can tell that the ANC that we know, the ANC that we were born in, hearing the news even from far, the ANC of Nelson Mandela, Mama Winnie Mandela, and many more people of that ANC, it is no longer the same ANC. Instead, things are getting worse and worse time to time. But what surprised me about all this is for the fact that whenever we're talking about these kind of things, there'll be someone sitting out there, they're busy insulting you or calling you names, all because you are talking the truth about something that it is in their favor. And instead of them opening the eyes and see where are them coming from, where are them standing at the moment, and where they will be tomorrow, they are not doing that. Instead, they are trying to look on who's talking about them, or who's trying to tell them the truth, so that they will see on how they can also reply back and be very harsh toward such kind of people. But there is a problem. There is a problem because the reason why I'm saying this is because we managed to see this year, all the ANC conference, how things went through in. It was all about fighting of one another, taking each other to the court, cancelling of conferences, contesting the candidates, contesting even the winner. There's some chairman or chairperson, whatever they call themselves, in some of these provinces, no matter how they've been acknowledged by the higher leadership in the ANC, but within their province, ANC members or their arrival, they don't acknowledge the leadership. They don't believe in them. They all feel like these people, they came in with a very tiring face. So guys, you see for yourself that with this being said, already I can sense that there's nothing good is gonna come out, because after this nonsense had took place in the provinces, now it is delegates in Nasrec, whereby you find the delegates who are separate. Some they want to support President Cyril Ramaphosa, some they want to support Zolin Mukize. So, and on other side, you get to see some of these candidates being eliminated in the last minute. In the last minute, guys. The last person they eliminated, we have to hear on the news that no, they were just sitting and they see the police coming in with a report later saying that we have there's a case against this person, so therefore should not be nominated. Guys, how did the police even know that this person was a candidate? If it is not one of the ANC member who went to this police and tell them that, guys, this is the time, I want this person to be eliminated in the race so that I will remain alone, or so that maybe I will remain with that weak candidate. And the next things, someone is being eliminated like that, they have to quit. So for me, I feel like it's not gonna bring anything best out of it. Even themselves, within themselves, they know anything that is possible for this conference, because I managed to listen to Fikile Mbalula, who was also afraid, telling people that people think that something bad will happen to this Congress, whereby members and delegates will end up fighting, or maybe we're not going to come up to a better conclusion. But here I am guaranteeing you that I believe everything will go okay. You get to listen for yourself that these ANC members, they're having serious problem within themselves, but no one have the courage to stood and try to speak out, as we saw Nkosazana Zuma did in the parliament on Tuesday. So we wish them all the best, because they have to come up with a good idea. They have to come up with a good plan to help people of South Africa. People are suffering, guys. We can't keep on saying that, oh, look, what South Africans we are going through is what is happening in the majority of the country out there, especially in Africa. No, that is I don't know how should I, that's nonsense. It's not a reason. You can't give that as a reason to defend your wrongdoing. Oh, we're even doing much better. No, look, it's like you are dropping a drop of water in the oceans. Like, honestly speaking, because South Africans are experiencing serious problems, and what you are trying to do, or what you've been doing, is not enough. It's not enough. It's like you are mopping on the rain. When will you be able to dry the floor? So, ANC people, they should try at least to have that courage to accept some defeat in order for them to do better. But as long as they're still having this arrogance of thinking that no, everything is fine, we have managed to do 1, 2, 3, 4, then it's not going to take them anyway. Instead, it will keep on making people to distrust them, because they are not doing what is right in the eyes of people of South Africa. So now that things are getting to this level, let's wait and see what will come out from it, and let's wait see what will happen, because the last analysis I did for you, what they were planning, because on this matter of Palapala, you guys will saw how President Ramaphosa survived the motion of no confidence in the parliament. The vote which is supposed to bring him to the parliament so that he can get to explain on what happened with this man of Palapala, everything. And they'll ask him questions and they'll decide later on whether the president is doing good or not for him to remain in the office. So I had told you that they had to go and vote for him to remain because of the pressures that they've been receiving from this leader of the ANC. And these people, they were very clear. After speaking inside, they will come out in the media and they'll send a loud message. People who assisted in that NAC meeting, they had to come and explain also how they were being threatened by Kwede Mantashe, and they've been told on what to do. And we get to see when they came out from that wall, they had to tell people that ANC members knows what to do. And if anyone will refuse to or anyone will try to disrespect the leadership message, then they'll have to face the consequences that will come. So the reason why they had to do this, because they had some agreement which were imposed to most of people who were in that meeting. And the agreement was that President Ramaphosa should remain. We can't remove him like that. If we remove him, which means we'll give more power to the opposition parties, and we'll lose a lot of voters, because they'll feel like, okay, once again we're being disappointed when it comes to the ANC leadership to lead the country. So therefore, we must not vote him out. The second point, I said to you, they had to do it to vote in favor of President Ramaphosa because they did not want to give power to opposition parties, because if they had to go and vote for opposition parties, and vote for against President Ramaphosa, it was going to give the opposition parties more power for them to feel like, yes, see how big the ANC is, see how small our party cities, but at least we are managing to control them, because they always come and vote with us at the end of the day. So this was going to bring more excuse me, this was going to bring more confidence in the opposition political parties, and they were going to have that more power to start challenging the majority of the ANC. So the ANC, they did not want to give them that pleasure. That's why they had to block. But within themselves, they know very well that the president had violated some law somewhere there. Now, what can them do? Because you guys get to see how Mbalula again, the following day, after the following day of after they had voted in the parliament, he attended the ANC meeting where he was telling people that we can't abandon President Ramaphosa because he's one of us. And I said to you, if someone like Mr. Mbalula have to say this kind of things, can you trust this kind of a person? Because obviously you'll tell that even if you are wrong or right, him as an ANC member, they will have to protect you. Even if you have to face the justice, even if you have broke the law or committed a crime, it does not concern them. Instead, they will have to find a shield way they will have to protect you. He said it. And that is the reason why they feel like they have to vote for Ramaphosa. But according to my results that I have in my possession so far, the main reason is that it is those two reasons that I just mentioned to you. They do not want to give the power to the opposition political party, and another reason also, they wanted to do things to prepare a proper candidate who come and take over. And that is the reason why they say, okay, fine, we're gonna save him in the parliament, but if we have to sanction him, then we'll have to sanction him at Nazareth. in the ANC Congress meeting. And they remember they usually vote, so perhaps they will come up again and tell everyone that, okay, look, you need to vote Zoleni Mukiza. And then you listen to them and you do so, and the next thing Ramaphosa is out. But if it happened that they don't want to vote the other candidate, what will become of the ANC? Because all these two candidates so far, they are having something which they are being reproached of. They are having some allegations. And get to look at the matter. According to the ANC members, they prefer President Ramaphosa, according to them, because they feel like is much more better. So this again had raised a couple of questions in the past days, where people had to ask themselves questions to know whether there is no other candidate who can do much better than President Cyril Ramaphosa in the ANC. You see, so there is a lot to say about around these problems, and that's the reason why I said that we should just wait and see what will happen. We'll keep you updates about all the ANC Congress. If you don't want to miss anything, please make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel right now, and do like this video. I really do appreciate. But for now, continue to be yourself. Be good, be kind, have respect for everyone in order for you to be respected. May God bless you all. I'll see you again very soon. Ciao, ciao.